Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in this episode of The Hypnotist, you're going to be listening to a hypnosis session created for someone that was working in the area of sales and business development. And although they were doing well, there was also a feeling of anxiety and resistance to seeing more clients face to face, particularly if they were unscheduled appointments, even if she was very close by and in the area. And what was interesting about this particular client, I used an analogy of, a free spin on a roulette wheel, and they'd actually lived in a hotel connected to a casino at one point in their life. So I knew that was a really useful analogy for them and their perception and their experience. The analogy essentially is, normally when you're betting, you're risking a stake, a bet, for the possibility of increasing the return. The way that sales and business development works, though, is that you're not really risking anything other than your time. Unless you're bidding for some kind of procurement process, there isn't really a cost to attempt. But the payoff is that if you do create a connection, if you do create value, that can be very beneficial, both career-wise and financially. So part of the analogy here is creating this idea of a game in which you can get high rewards, but no risk other than time by playing. And what was going through this client's mind as I was talking through this new way of looking at taking any fear of rejection or risk, or that they're bothering other people, away from the equation, there was an element of frustration that, why didn't they make this change a long time ago? And that can happen when you're dealing with life changes. But a better way of thinking about a life change is that if you've been able to cope this long without this change taking place, imagine how well you're going to do in the future with this change. So there's also an analogy in this hypnosis session of running a long race and then realizing that you're carrying a very heavy weight with you for everything you've run so far, and now you get to take the weight off. And then there's this sense of contrast and comparison that actually, well, if you've been able to run the race carrying the weight, you can definitely run the rest of the race without the weight. So a lot of this links to certain fundamental principles of business development, which is, at some level, it's a contact sport. And if you make more contacts, you can cover more ground, and then you get a possibility of a higher return. So things like the work ethic, the desire to cover more ground, mitigating any kind of fear of rejection or bothering other people is crucial to this. But what was also crucial is to create a compelling future where this client could see all the benefits of living in this way. So it's not a temporary feeling of, let's say, short-term motivation, but more a strategic change in direction and prioritizing a different approach that long-term would give benefits. And that's always more important. Anyone can feel better in the present in a short period of time, but to have something that's self-perpetuating and gives you feelings of meaning, significance, and growth, that tends to keep rewarding itself and therefore keeps a different trajectory change rather than a temporary change. This will be benefit, I think, for anyone in the world of client-facing industries, but also because it's an analogy, anything that involves risk. Some people, you could use a relationship risk, like not asking people out on a date, for example, or friendships, like not saying hello to a new person. It doesn't have to link to the idea of business development. It's just that that's what it was for this particular client. But again, one of the beautiful things with metaphors and analogies is that you can make it fit whatever your priorities and values are at this particular point in your life. So find a quiet place where you won't be disturbed, relax, and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in a resourceful feeling of relaxation. And as you exhale, just allow any feelings of worry, stress, or tension to leave your body in your outward breath. As you breathe in and breathe out, just allow any feelings of tension to be released from your eyelids around your eyes. And with your eyes closed, notice that you can pay more attention to the sound of my voice. And allow the sound of my voice to take your imagination on a journey through time, a journey to enable you to access different ways of thinking, different ways of feeling. And I want you to accept the suggestion that your reality is a reflection of the resources that you can access at any moment in time. And therefore, in the future, as you open new doorways to new resources, or long-forgotten resources, then your external reality also becomes a reflection of the increased level of potential that you're tapping into. Simply put, changes in the present influence the quality of your future. But I want you to imagine a time in your past. I want you to imagine a place that represented a good time in your life, a time of opportunity, of learning, of inspiration, of new experiences. And I want you to imagine a casino, a luxurious, opulent casino, perhaps with fountains and chandeliers. And I want you to imagine remembering what you remember about this place. Maybe it's the colors, the architecture, the interior design, the energy, the ambience. And when you can recall what it was like to be there back then, feeling what you felt at that time, just let me know by nodding your head. And I want you to imagine you're walking down into this casino, into a high roller area. And I want you to imagine there is a roulette table, high stakes roulette table. But I want you to imagine you are holding a lot of chips to play on this table. Maybe you can see the denomination on these chips. To other people, they would have to buy these chips. For you, they just represent your time. I want you to imagine it's free for you to play on this table. You can get real rewards but it doesn't cost you anything to play. And I want you to get a sense of how motivated you would be to play a game that it didn't cost you to play, but the rewards were very high. In this situation, the biggest risk to you would be to not to play at all. I want you to get a sense that you're pulling up a chair at this roulette table. And for now, I want you to imagine that you're just choosing red or black. And red or black represents perhaps something in your present that represents about a 50-50 chance of going your way. And maybe that is dropping by and seeing a client that already knows you and you know them. There's no guarantee they'll be available when you drop by. But in many cases, they'll make time. And if they can see you, they will see you. And by seeing you, that could lead to something financially beneficial and advantageous to you. I want you to imagine putting your stake on either color, seeing the ball spin round the roulette wheel, hearing the whirring of the wheel, and hearing the clicks as the ball dances around the roulette wheel and finally lands on a color. And interestingly, it doesn't matter to you if it's your color or not, because if it is your color, you win. And if it isn't your color, no harm done. You can just put more chips on the same or different color and watch the roulette wheel spin around again. There are certain things in life where you don't have to pay to play. Using your initiative, reaching out to someone, connecting with someone, attempting to make an appointment or just drop by and have an interaction. That is your stake. And sometimes you'll win, and sometimes you won't. But in a game like that, whoever plays the most wins the most. And I want you to imagine you're back there at that roulette table, accepting that in certain situations, when it's red or black, there's about a 50-50 chance of you winning. But you could choose 1/3 of the table, 1/3 of the numbers. You reduce your probability, but you increase your reward. Or maybe it's a cluster of just 4 numbers altogether. Even less chance, but even more reward. And I want you to think of some of the prospects, some of the accounts that are less likely. But doesn't that give you a sense of excitement? That because you know they're less likely, you're not expecting to win. So therefore, if you do have a meeting, have an appointment, and it leads to something good, that feels even better than one of these other accounts that might be more reliable. I want you to tap into the idea that the only risk to you is the investment of your time. You have the emotional resilience and perspective to simply want to play the game. And some people like to play it safe, And some people like to be more risky. But I want you to imagine you've got a different strategy. I want you to now imagine that you're not at the roulette table, but you're maybe driving around past different buildings, different offices. And I want you to get the sense that if you happen to be close by to someone that you know, someone that you could drop by, it's like a free roll on the roulette wheel. You can win, but the only thing you have to lose is the small amount of time you would lose by dropping by a place that you're already close to anyway. Low risk, high reward. And some of these prospects, these accounts might be so unlikely. It's the equivalent of putting all of your chips just on one number on the roulette wheel. Your expectations are low, very low. In all probability, there will be no payoff. But perhaps in your life, whether in a casino or different situations, doesn't that feel the best when a low probability thing happens anyway? I want you to consider that a bonus, a jackpot. Imagine how good it would feel to drop by a company where you have zero expectations and it turns into something you thought had no likelihood of happening at all. I want you to get into this idea that the only risk is your time, and every day the time passes anyway. So the key question is, what's the best use of your time to give you the biggest return on that time? What will make you feel the best, learn the most, earn the most, and have the biggest impact? I want you to imagine that you're running a marathon. And as you imagine running the marathon, I want you to imagine that you have a heavy rucksack. I want you to imagine that this is a longer marathon than normal. This is a 40-mile marathon. And perhaps you can see some kind of signpost or indicator saying that you've already traveled 17 miles in this 40-mile race. And you look around and you see that nobody else is carrying a heavy rucksack. And you could be resentful that, why have you been the only one carrying this heavy rucksack for 17 miles when nobody else had to? Or you could look at it a different way. You could look at it that by running for 17 miles with this heavy rucksack, you've got stronger legs. You've got more stamina. You've been training for this. But now it's time to let go of that rucksack. Those beliefs or fears or worries, the heaviness of that rucksack, just imagine taking it off. For everyone else that's been running 17 miles, they're tired and they're exhausted. But for you, now that you're taking that heavy rucksack off, you feel like you've got a new lease of life, new energy. It feels, in comparison to how you've been running before, that it would be so easy for you to run faster than you ever did before because you're no longer carrying this weight. and feel how good it would feel to run forward without this weight there on your back. And get a sense that for however many miles is left in this race, you now have an advantage because nobody else was having to carry the weight that you were carrying. But what if you were winning the race already, even when you were carrying that weight? Doesn't it stand to reason that now that you take off that weight, you could simply go even further ahead? I want you to imagine that as you breathe in and you breathe out, you're breathing in powerful qualities that will serve you well. Imagine breathing in a spirit of fearlessness. That social confidence is just going in through your nose and filling your body with this feeling of social confidence, this positive energy, this frequency that is just infectious, that people gravitate towards. As you imagine carrying on this virtual race, this desire to risk little and gain a lot. And sometimes when people jog and run, they get lost in their own imagination. And I want you to imagining a future version of you that has let go of some of those fears and anxieties and worries. Imagine a future version of you that wants to play the game more than ever before, is fearless to drop by and say hello, to make new connections, that you're at your most excited when it's least likely to go your way. I want you to get a sense that you are unlocking invaluable resources, and you can see that future version of you performing better than you ever have, earning more than you ever have, feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment more than you ever had, having a new lease of life, new energy, vitality than ever before. See yourself as a role model, that the people that you would want to inspire look at you with a sense of pure inspiration. See the people, maybe that you work with, being even more impressed with your work ethic and your ability to generate results. But more importantly, I want you to see that future version of you fully deserving your success. It changes how you spend your money that you earn because you feel like you deserve it. So when you treat yourself to nice things, you get to enjoy them even more because you know you deserve it. I want you to get a sense that you are seeing a future version of you that you are proud of and that you respect. And when all parts of you see that future version of you, the future that you deserve and you desire, let me know by nodding your head. And then imagine stepping into that future version of you and imagining that you're doing your job. And maybe there's a company that you could drop by and say hello. But notice the emotion has changed. There is no fear attached, just a desire. A desire, an attitude of either I win or I learn. I'm not risking anything by trying. Notice how much more trust you have in yourself, how much belief you have in the value that you create, but more importantly, a spirit of fun and excitement that reminds you of those times that you played roulette for the very first time. Your work is now a roulette wheel where you risk very little and you stand to gain a lot. The only question is, how much will you stand to win when you play this game? Take all those wonderful feelings of opportunity, excitement, self-belief, fearlessness, enthusiasm. Take it all the way back to the present, where you're listening to my voice in this moment, all parts returning to the present as you take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, get a sense that all parts returning to the present. And very soon I will count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. You will awaken feeling resourceful, optimistic, full of self-belief and excitement as to what this new chapter in your book will be like. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.